I wanted to create wealth. I did not want to get rich. I wanted to passively earn so much darn money every single day while I sleep, while I eat, while I'm playing with my grandchildren, while I'm training. I just want to earn, and show my family how to do that passively, the power of that.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Keeping It Real Estate. I am super excited for today, you guys. I got a great friend on with me, Bobby Castro. Bobby has been working with Mike and I firsthand for the last several months and just gotten to know him really well. Very authentic, a lot of experience, very interesting background, very interesting story. So with that said, Bobby, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Dan. And it's an honor working with you and Mike. I mean, you guys definitely not only have transparency, but you have a ton of integrity. So that's very important to me.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it'd be great for our listeners who maybe don't know you to hear a little bit about your background, your story of where you came from and what you're able to build, and then kind of bring us to where you are today.
Sure. Well, first, I've been married now for a little bit over 35 years. Sophie and I celebrate our 35th wedding anniversary, October 6, 2025, just a couple months ago. We have two awesome children, Priscilla, who just turned 35, Brandon, who just turned 30. They're both married to some awesome individuals. Eddie, who and Priscilla have been married for about 11 years. Brandon and Jen, they've been married now for a few years. We have three grandchildren. Ocean, who's 10 years old, Oakley, who's 8 years old, and that's Priscilla and Eddie's children and our two grandchildren. And then Brandon and Jen have baby Lily, who's going to be 1 year old here, coming up here very soon. So we're blessed to say that everyone has health, happiness, but more so that we are, as leaders of our family, our pioneers. Sophie and I call ourselves stewards, and we're examples to our two children, their spouses, our grandchildren, because we do have a legacy plan of a 100-year legacy plan. And this all came about when I changed my generational patterns, Dan. And I'll give you a little background on me. I only have a 9th grade education. So back then that was junior high. Today that's high school. I started a company waiting on tables at a restaurant called Rusty Pelican in Key Biscayne in Miami. My wife, Sophie, was a secretary at a doctor's office. I had two jobs, waiting on tables at night, and then working for the Better Business Bureau during the day, selling memberships. And then Sophie had a day job, as I mentioned, at a doctor's office. And we started a business. We come from nothing. Sophie didn't even graduate from high school. She left at the 10th grade. And I grew up on Section 8 housing. My father had 14, 15 children, many different children with many different ladies. He had me when I was 50. My mother was 27. My mom was a waitress practically all her adult life. She's still around. My dad passed when he was 94 years old. And I grew up actually seeing a struggle, but having my family not see the struggle. They didn't realize how really poor they were, how much of a struggle they were actually front and center with. They thought it was just normal. It bothered me a little bit, but not so much as until I got older. I just couldn't understand how come they couldn't see the struggle when it was clear as day for me. And that was from working around the restaurant business, like my mom. At 14 years old, I had my first job at Pasquale's Italian restaurant as a takeout, and then eventually a busboy. And I used to be around individuals, i.e. customers at tables, hearing some very fascinating discussions about business, about vacation, about life, about positive outcomes. People were blossoming in life, but yet my house was struggling, but they didn't see that they were struggling. So I was on my radar. I decided to leave school at the 9th grade. Right after the 9th grade, it wasn't for me. My mom said absolutely yes. School board thought she was absolutely crazy. School was not for me. To give you a little color on that, I failed at the 2nd grade, 3rd grade, and no one fails at the 3rd grade in public system. That's what automatically pushed forward your pass. So the point I'm trying to make, I wasn't the brightest. I had a hard time focusing. So then I started a company, Sophie and I, not just me, my wife and I, with $1,700, $1,700. That was not our money. It was a loan that her incredible mother, Dixie, who's no longer with us, she passed of lung cancer some years back, loaned us $1,700.
Wow.
We took the $1,700, started a fintech company back then. We didn't even realize it was a fintech company. Matter of fact, there was no such word as a fintech. We started a finance company with the $1,700 while we were working at our jobs, as I mentioned. And we had no credit. Matter of fact, we had bad credit. We had no money. I was living at my in-laws' house. I had a little peewee, Priscilla at that time. And, I was really unfocused in life. And I started becoming more and more focused. And the power of being focused and what you give energy to, only one thing guarantees to happen, Dan, it grows. We took the $1,700, borrowed no money from anybody else, had no credit line, had no credit, had no investors. And we eventually started a company and we sold that company $250 million. They bought it all cash for 30%. And I'm just fast forwarding. And then a little bit after that, we sold it again based on $600 million, all cash. They bought 19% more. And then a little bit after that, we did our final exit, Sophie and I, for $1 billion, and they bought the remaining shares. And it was all cash. There was no stock. There was no earnouts. There was nothing on paper, no seller financing. Nice and clean and straightforward deal. All three deals closed. The first one closed maybe within 90 days. Second one closed maybe within 5 months. The third one, the big one, closed maybe inside 60 days. And the power of opportunity in our great country is a prime example. And we started having a different relationship with our money. And that's how it happened. So relationship with money is very important. Money's supposed to be working for you. You're not supposed to be working for money. And again, being a waiter, being very curious about all these conversations. And I talk a lot about it in my book. It's called Upsiders, How to Upside Your Life. And we started really understanding the power of compounded money. And I got fixated on a stat, 1 penny a day compounded each day for a lousy 30 days comes out to over $5 million. But the big power is one extra day, 31 days. It's over $11 million. I was staggered. And that led us to get into multifamily investing many, many years ago. This is way before we sold the first slice, second slice, and third slice. Sophie and I started in real estate, primarily rentals, the power of compounding. And we were buying in little Section 8 housing areas, duplexes, this and that. We grew it throughout the years to institutional type of assets. We have maybe about today sub $800 million of multifamily. We don't have any investors. It's all our equity. Just like when we started the company, we didn't even know how to raise money. I didn't know anybody who had money. So I was self-taught just to earn money, but more so how to compound the money, to invest it, stop flash dancing your money, stop spending and burning your money. I started becoming very mindful to the point where I trademark something, not because it's a financial impact business. It means the world to me. One of many trademarks, non-refundable minutes. You can burn them, give them away, spend them, or invest them. I had no money, so I started investing my time, and my time started compounding. That multifamily extends me and my incredible family, and we have a family office now. We get just south of $800,000 a month between our trust and non-trust assets. That's every month. All six of us work in our own family office with different investments, a little bit private equity, a little VC, a lot of private credit, and a ton of multifamily assets. We just bought another one, 2025, the day before Thanksgiving, bought a beautiful Class A building here in South Florida, hot and heavy in 26. I would love to talk about what I'm seeing and why I'm so bullish, because I've been on the sideline for about 3 years. Yeah. And the first time I got off the sideline was last year.
Yeah, wow. Bobby, I love that story. And I hope everyone listening, you guys can hear, I love that you didn't come from a lot, Bobby. You had $1,700 borrowed from your wife's mother. No major education experience, no major gifts. What I always look at, you guys, when we're having folks on our show and when I'm listening to you, I'm first thinking, what do I want in my life? Number two is, can I find a mentor who's already doing it, who's already there? I can verify, yep, they're living that way. And for you guys, I talk a lot about massive passive income. And so the reason Bobby resonates with me and for Mike, and the reason we want to be working with someone like himself is, and I hope you guys can just see this in real time right here. He's at $800,000 a month every month. That's a significant amount of cash flow. That's a beautiful job of transitioning a ton of capital, some big exits, and not blowing it on, liabilities and losing it all and making it grow. So it's somebody who we can verify and get to know closely. and associate with and hopefully learn and bring value to Bobby, right? If there's anything we can do in the market, what can we do to bring value to Bobby?
Absolutely.
How can we learn to recreate what he's already doing? And what I find is that when you find people who are doing very well, who are very successful, they love to help. They want to, pass on wisdom. They want to share what's worked for them as long as, you show up in the right way. So, and then the part that's really big too is once you get around these mentors, ladies and gentlemen, you now have an action plan of what to go do. You're
1000%.
you're spending your time with very specific action items in a very specific way to recreate the recipe they've already created. So I love that story. I love that how you put all that, Bobby. The question I had for you real quick, there's two questions. One was the power of focus. You said that when you really focus, and I want to get into the market because I know that's what our listeners want to hear too.
Yeah.
But before we just run to that, you talk about the power of focus, and when you really focused, you were able to exponentially grow your company. Maybe you could speak a little bit more about that, because I think that's something that A, need to hear, and B, I think, hearing about the effort you guys put in, because I remember you telling, on stage, I heard you speak a couple times about recompounding and just staying the course and diligently putting it together. So number one, that, and then I want to hear when you took in the billion, how was that for you? Was it this, oh my gosh moment, or how was it? How did it occur for you?
Absolutely. For me, the number one enemy was distractions. I was so vulnerable to shiny objects, so vulnerable to what this one is saying, what this one's making money, what's the next hot investment, what's the next trend, what's on the news, just everything. Somebody calls on the cell, text. These are called distractions. And I was really buying into these distractions. And a lot of us do that without even understanding we are being distracted. And you have a mission, you claim, Bobby, I want to create this. I want to break my generational pattern curse in my family and have a different relationship with money, but I need to focus on that. And that means I need to really disconnect and not allow these distractions to enter me. They bounce off of me. And I talk a lot about it in my book. That's how I upsided my life. I wasn't the best husband at one time because I was distracted. I became and I created a better version of Bobby, a better husband. There's constant improvement in each and one of us because we're 1 out of 8 billion. Never again will be another Bobby there. In real estate, we all talk about supply and demand. Bitcoin, supply and demand, only 27 million coins of product supply. Oh, a lot of supplies, not our friend. Well, what if I tell you there's only one Bobby? Never, ever again will be another Bobby out of 8 billion of us. What is that worth? So that's where I started getting what's called self-worth. I started realizing my superpowers because of my focus. I wanted to create wealth. I did not want to get rich. I wanted to passively earn so much darn money every single day while I sleep, while I eat, while I'm playing with my grandchildren, while I'm training. I just want to earn, and show my family how to do that passively, the power of that. And to the second question, we got the first slice, got a wire transfer in our account, and I didn't get overwhelmed. Sophie, my wife, completely broke down. She cried. And I said, Sophie, babe, why are you crying? She felt bad for her family.
Oh, wow.
Me, I was more curious, Dan, saying, darn it, why did this thing close so fast? I read all about these complication transactions. Why did this close so fast? I was curious. And then I got focused on it. And then I started realizing, my gosh, this just works like multifamily primarily. So I found out that we should have sold for a lot more than what we did at 250. But again, I was distracted. I claimed I wanted this. I claimed I wanted to ring the bell as an entrepreneur and sell the company, but I had no clue the true valuation. I skipped that process. So I went back. We go back under 1 year later, and we said to the same folks, hey, we're going to take 19% more off the table. Perfect. We'll take it. It's a big institution. We'll take it. But it's 600 million. They said you're out of your mind. And of course, the rebuttal is I clearly understand your concern. I understand your heartburn, but I'm just reporting back to you. That's what we want. Doesn't mean you have to say yes. It doesn't mean you have to say no. It closes a few months later, because the power of being confident, knowing you know your underwriting, you know what your worth is. And then the final one was $1 billion. That closed the quickest out of all three. And again, a lot more money was in the account, as you can imagine. Didn't phase me. All three did not phase me. I had a bigger vision. I'm looking for legacy. I am 100 years out. I am making strides for grandchildren, great grandchildren I'll never meet. Matter of fact, me and my wife are on this journey, 100-year legacy plan, working really intentional about it. And we document everything. We do videos, and we're talking to family members we will never meet in our lifetime. And we're crying. We're letting them know we're doing everything we can now to create core values, policy within this family, so the Castros live a different life versus the previous generation. So because of my focus, I wasn't impacted on the money. I'm impacted on what I'm trying to create is legacy for my family.
Gosh, that is powerful.
When I chased the money, it didn't come. It came with disappointments. It left me. Kept showing up, left. Showing up, left. Like a job. That's when I started saying I want to passively become wealthy.
Man, I hope you guys can hear this. Bobby, when you were speaking, I'm like, man, that really hits my heart. And it's a lot of the stuff I talk about on social media and what we talk about on this podcast. So you align so well with who we are, and just such a great mentor for us. And you guys, as you pick mentors and as you work with folks, part of it is, attracting the right mentor and knowing where you're going and why it's a great fit. And, just to hear that one piece too, Bobby, for us as we build wealth to be chasing creation and a future and not money and not stuff. And, you use the term flash dancing. And I just want to touch on that a touch, just real quick, just so folks understand when you say flash dancing with money, like, what do you mean by that?
So there was a Bobby one day way back when, I would care. It would mean so much to me when you thought about my watch that I would be like this. Wow. I needed to shine that symbol because I wanted you to know I was successful, or I had a motive. I needed to buy that car. I needed to wear those Gucci watches. I needed all these shiny objects. But then I realized I'm doing more damage to myself. Why am I doing this? What am I trying to get out of this? Why do I care if Dan thinks I have a Richard Mille or a Rolex? And that's flash dancing, called you're being distracted. You're working for material things.
Yeah, got it. Okay, good. So that relates so much in my past world to professional athletes, right? And we hear about it, we see it all the time, where you read about all these pro athletes that sign these nice contracts, big contracts, and then all of a sudden they're taken and they're back. For my world, it was back at the grocery store. Guys who I know really well who became very big on TV, winning contests over and over again. Not making hundreds of millions, but making low million, 3 million a year. And it ends, and all of a sudden they're back where they were.
It's horrible. Their influence, the surroundings, who they're investing with, all matters. I mean, I'm blessed to say I have beautiful homes. I'm blessed to say I have quite a bit of cars, beautiful boat here, there, a watch that's stacked away. That's going to be for my grandchildren or child. I'm just, I'm in a different season in life more and more as I continue to grow. What my bigger mission is to break that generational pattern where I can show my children, grandchildren, and future generations, money is to work for us. We are supposed to be surrounded with the greatest other partners, because I do invest in a lot of GPs, general partners, but these are quality individuals. This is just not nobody because you're driving a friggin' Ferrari does not mean I should be investing in you. So I see so many people doing that over and over like I did, just because Benny's driving that Mercedes, that Ferrari, or he's flashing a bunch of blah, 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 blah. Automatically, I'm going to give him my life savings. I have gotten destroyed that way. I choose to be surrounded by integrity, transparency. Transparency is the biggest thing and the hardest thing to receive. And since that day I chose that, my life took off. My investments took off. I mean, I just mentioned that 800,000. There's multiple other little buckets of passive dollars.
Yeah. The piece, you guys that really struck me, and the basics of it is, as you make income, as you make money, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to spend it on a car, a home, it goes down in value potentially, or are you going to invest it in a wise manner? So that piece is what I like to talk about professional athletes when these guys get these new contracts. Yeah, sure, have some fun. You've done a great job. And at the same time, be stacking some away to start to create multiple streams of income. Hedge the inflation of the dollar that's going to continue to rip as we go into late stage 5 of the debt cycle. And that's where multifamily comes into play. So that's really the reason I wanted to have you on, is to talk a little bit more about, what we're seeing in the market currently. For those of you that have been listening to our podcast, you guys know that 21, 22, there was a huge run up, and a lot of a lot of inhibition thrown to the wind, and a lot of deals that were over leveraged and overpaid. And then obviously the Fed raises rates to help get inflation to come down. A bunch of new builds start in 21, 22, which oversupply the market. We have this huge multifamily correction. So there's been 3-4 years of quite a lot of pain. Yeah. And so that brings us to where we are now. And Bobby, what are you seeing in the market? Distressed assets, any of that you want to talk about here? That what you're
firsthand. I'm seeing opportunity, but more so where the biggest win is. I'm seeing. So Warren Buffett has a saying: "When the tide goes out, you shall see who's been swimming naked." So a lot of our peers, they're no longer in business, because they were just buying. And just because these poor LPs were investing because their friend invested or because they appear to be successful, they never really spent time with the general partner, the GP, to really understand who you're investing with. It's not what you're investing in, who you're investing with. That was the world of a difference, where I know a lot of people that are doing very well with their GPs. These are LPs. And I know a lot of LPs that have gotten destroyed because the GPs were just sloppy. They were sloppy and they took advantage of people. And unfortunately, a lot of LPs are maybe scared to get back in the industry, or maybe they never were in the industry and they heard these horror stories. I can tell you, multifamilies are number one favorite asset. It's the number one way to create wealth. It's the number one way to passively just receive money and grow your net worth. It's boring. The biggest the biggest data point everyone misses is who you're investing with, that general partner. That is 99% of everything. Everyone probably will disagree with, no, Bobby, it's the real estate, it's the location. Yes, I agree with you. But who's running shotgun and who's driving this wagon is your partner, your general partner. And I think a lot of people missed it. And because of that, Dan, there's so much opportunity out there for you and I to get. For example, the deal that I bought in November, a day or two before Thanksgiving, we bought it for $63.8 million. It should have been traded all day, every day for a little bit over 74, 72 million. We just took advantage of an opportunity that someone got themselves in trouble with because they had no idea what they were doing.
Yeah.
We're looking at these opportunities and they're there, but the only bona fide GPs like you and I can recognize the opportunity. You can buy opportunity, but what are you going to do with it? So I think there's an abundance of opportunity. We're on the sideline, as I mentioned, for 3 years. First time we're peaking, maybe the second half of last year, aggressively. Finally found a deal, closed on it in November. Now we have about 3 LOIs out there. In 26, we're very, very going to be very busy, because to be a homeowner doesn't take. Stevie Wonder can see this. It's out of reach. We've always heard it. We're going to be a renter's country more than ever, because homes are not going to get cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a real big believer. This is the wealth where they're all putting their money, guys, is multifamily. Yes, they're putting them here, but multifamily is a big fixation on the wealthy ecosystem. The high net worth families, ultra high net worth families are investing in multifamily. And when I see my own family members that still think that Sophie and I got lucky, and we keep giving them at barbecues pointers what to do, but they're so stuck on their patterns, they can't become humble enough to just realize what we're saying to them, and they're missing out. So maybe if you're a listener on here, are you missing out? Do you think it takes $1 million to get in here? Do you realize it just takes hardly nothing to get in this space? Just finding the right general partner to link up with, who you can invest with, but more so who you can learn from.
Man, that's funny. The lucky comment, Bobby, I've heard it so much, even at my level of success. And, the funny part is it's always a decade, or at least it was for me. The day I turned into a big name athlete, I guess you would, in the world, a lot of these guys were like, "Where'd you come from? You're an overnight success. How'd you do it? You got lucky." And at the end of the day, it's a 10-year grind. It is a 10-year of laser focus. I think I'm coming back to you saying the power of focus. I can't stress that enough, you guys, of how much momentum you can create when you cut distraction. And that when you say you cut distraction, I can relate to that in my snowboarding career because absolutely obsessed. If someone wasn't supportive of it, I removed them from my life. I didn't change or alter my course. And I think with multifamily, it's somewhat similar right now. Is it's easy to get distracted and say, "Oh, we had some deals that are bad. I'm going to run over here. I'm going to go try this. I'm going to go over here." And the reality is this is where you need to be now and double down now, because this is the opportunity now. And if you run to the other pasture or the other asset class, you're going to miss one of these beautiful buying opportunities, these beautiful windows to purchase. And I think that's what you're touching on, Bobby. At least that's what I heard.
And it takes courage. It takes courage to lean in. And I know this to be true. My personal testimonial, Sophie and I almost filed bankruptcy when we had no clue about real estate. And that company that I mentioned that we sold, it was also a signer on those loan docs along with our personal guarantees. And because I was linked with maybe some folks that had not too much experience, I maybe thought I'm not blaming them by no means. I'm blaming myself. You have to go through lessons to learn. And there was a moment I didn't want to lean back into it. There was a moment I almost missed this. But I leaned back into it and I said, you know what? I looked at the data points. Okay, who did I partner with? Who was the sponsor? Who found the deal? And when you track your mistakes in life, of course, the biggest treasure is the lesson. But there's so much dividends when you track the mistakes because it'll tell you what to do different and what to do better the next time. You just got to lean back in.
I'm so glad you said that. I want to reiterate what you're talking about because we've had some pain from deals we purchased in 21, you guys. Buying locations we should have never been messing with. At that time, income was easy, rent was high, occupancy was high, delinquency was low. It was a time where things were easy. So it was really hard to tell what made a deal different and what made them better and how are they going to behave when things got tough. And so when things got tough, it was really clear for us as we're managing 22 assets around the country, what assets sailed through it no problem and what ones got destroyed or massively affected. And so for us, one lesson I just want to share with you guys that is undeniable, I'm certain to my core here, is your location you pick and your tenant profile living on site. You hear Bobby's buying an A-class deal in a beautiful location in Florida. That's experience. And for us, you guys, a piece of criteria we moved into our company, we didn't run, we didn't quit, we adjusted our criteria based off of a lesson, is premier locations, which is why we're looking at deals that are in the best locations right now.
Well, like that one deal, I was in Texas looking at a deal I was looking at, and the one that I'm not going to mention it, but the one that you and Mike are in contract with, I was curious and I went there. It was a 40-minute drive, as I mentioned to you. I'm blown away with your location. Your location's irreplaceable. It is a dream deal. It's a dream asset. And more so, how you were awarded, not just anybody gets awarded these deals. You're competing against sophisticated other investors. And that was very impressive. So you guys got a screamer.
Yeah, thank you.
I just want to mention that, dude. That location is phenomenal, dude.
Thank you. And we have a signed PSA as of today. It's a 506E, so I can talk about it. It's Hathaway at Willow Bend in Plano, Texas. So all good there. And that's a perfect example, though, you guys, of taking pain, adjusting criteria, and now having a new principle that we're not going to bend on. And when you have that clarity, it helps you say no to the damaging deals that are going to cause you heartache and pain. So
incredible. Congratulations on that. And you were awarded it because of your reputation, because you were competing against some sophisticated other groups.
Yeah, you guys, talking a little bit about that too, getting awarded deals. This is a relationship business. You'll be known in this industry and ideally you can get with people who can vouch for you. We had some people who have major impact who helped us get in a position where we could be taken seriously. Because if you come into a market and you're wanting to buy a premier location, B-class deal, these brokers are going to suss you out, right? For us, when we're selling a deal, first thing I'm asking is show me their track record. How likely are they to close? And they may go with someone who's going to submit slightly below for certainty of close, right? And or your workability. So I think that's really important to hear if you're in the business and you're looking to be a buyer. Yes, you get clear on your underwriting and you make sure LOI is really solid and you do your proper inspections to get an accurate number. Otherwise, these brokers are going to look at you like, yeah, you don't know what you're doing. You threw a retrade. And I'm not saying you can't retrade in this market. In this market, there is likely a retrade happening. So that doesn't mean you can't do that, but just be really thorough on your LOIs before you head that direction so you can be your word and really perform on what you think you can do. I don't know, Bobby.
Great advice. You're 100% right. That's awesome advice.
Yeah. Okay. Beautiful. So, selecting the right GP, I just want to touch on that real quick. And we've already been running for 30 minutes here. So is there anything you specifically do if you've got people right now that are listening, they're like, okay, I would like to learn more. I'd like to check in this asset class. I can hear there's opportunity and I can see that there's massive wealth that can be created. How would you vet a GP to say, okay, I'm ready to give it a shot?
One data point, I'll pick one of a few, but the main one, I want to invest with somebody who's been through darkness, found their way out, and on the way out, they have success. I don't want to deal with, I've learned my lesson where unfortunately I was investing with 100% batting average. And unfortunately, they didn't have a strategy, know-how, tenacity of when you go through darkness, what does that look like? They've all went through brightness, which is totally cool, but we know darkness does come on brightness. They're called peaks and valleys. And looking back, that was a major mistake I did. I should have been investing with people like yourself that have withstand different storms and tests of times, and because they weren't ready for it, they didn't understand how to behave or what to do in those circumstances. So I rather, just like you're a former all-star sports athlete. I mean, you've been through I'm sure broken ribs, broken bones, just devastation, have lost competition after competition, won. That is somebody I want to team up with. It's no different than Michael Jordan. That's why he's a winner. He's been through a lot of seasons in life. So if you're somebody out there looking to invest with somebody in multifamily, really make sure that GP has been through darkness, brightness. How did they come out of it? All that, it matters, guys.
Yeah, you guys, I've asked that question to so many of our guests, and this answer right here would be the answer that I would align with 100% certainty, is that you don't know how someone's going to behave when things get tough until they've been through it. And you don't want to be the one riding that horse when that GP says, I'm done, I'm out of here, forget it. Because all of a sudden they're gone and
they throw in the flag.
All gone.
Throw in the towel.
Yeah. Yeah. What advice, Bobby? I really, really appreciate you being on. I really appreciate our time together. I love everything we're about. You mesh so well with us. Thank you so much for being on. Anything you would like to share to wrap it up?
Just remember, man, no matter where you're at now in life, and I'm one that always roots for the underdogs. One, ego will never be your amigo. Let it go. You don't know it all. There's so much things in areas in life you don't know. You can learn. Surround yourself with that transparency, integrity, as I mentioned. And remember, issues are just issues, but I can guarantee you there's solutions to those issues. Lean back in. Have courage.
I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you all for listening to another episode of Keeping It Real Estate, and we'll see you in the next show.